My best friend traded his wife for my sister and made me the villain. He thought I'd keep quiet. But what happened next turned his life into a living hell. All right, let's dive right in. My name's Dan, I'm 25, and up until about a week ago, I thought my life was fairly standard. Solid job, a few decent friends, and family drama kept to a minimum. My best friend Mike, same age, was practically a brother to me. We went way back to high school, where we shared everything. Laughs, drinks, embarrassing stories. He even married this incredible woman named Lisa. You know, the type of girl who just oozes kindness. She's the one you picture making cute pancakes on Sunday mornings with a genuine smile. She was that kind of nice, and honestly, I was genuinely happy for him. Then there was my little sister, Sarah, 21, and with that kind of youthful oblivion that makes older siblings worry. Sarah's the one who still thinks the world is full of sunshine and rainbows, totally unaware of the real wolves lurking around. But here's the thing about Mike. He was my best friend. Yet in the past few months, I noticed a few changes. I'm talking about weird texts he'd hide, random disappearances, and sketchy excuses. I'm not a detective or anything, but I had this itching feeling that something wasn't right. And that's when the universe decided to hit me with a cosmic joke. One evening, I came home early after a long day of listening to my boss whine about budgets, ready to collapse on the couch and forget the world existed. But as soon as I walked in, I heard something strange. The kind of sounds you'd rather not hear coming from behind a closed door. So, like any rational adult, I froze, hoping maybe I was hallucinating out of exhaustion. Spoiler alert, I wasn't. With a mix of dread and irritation, I walked towards Sarah's room. I told myself that maybe she'd invited some guy over. Not great, but hey, it happens. However, I couldn't prepare myself for the scene that awaited me. I cracked the door open just enough to get a glimpse, and there, in broad daylight, was Mike, my best friend, with my sister, in a way that no amount of bleach could erase from my mind. And yeah, you'd better believe they were too busy to even notice me standing there, trying to make sense of the disaster unfolding right before my eyes. I can't lie. At first I thought it was some prank. I was half expecting them to jump up, laugh in my face, and yell, "Gotcha!" But this wasn't a joke. Nope. It was one of those gut punch moments when you realize that everything you thought you knew just got burned to the ground. I backed away slowly, hoping my footsteps wouldn't give me away, because the last thing I needed was for them to turn this into some awkward conversation. So, there I was, pacing in the hallway, head spinning, trying to decide whether I wanted to punch a wall or laugh at how ridiculous my life had suddenly become. I mean, really? Out of all the people in the world, Mike chose my sister. It was like some twisted reality show, except I didn't remember signing up for it. All right, so after the nuclear shock wore off and my brain rebooted, I decided there was no way I was letting this go without some kind of showdown. The next day, I stormed over to Mike's place, still fuming, ready to hit him with the full verbal blast of betrayal. Imagine walking into your so-called best friend's apartment, armed with the kind of rage only a double betrayal can bring, and seeing him lounging on the couch, scrolling through his phone like nothing had happened. Just chilling. Like he didn't totally stomp all over the line. Unbelievable. "Mike, what were you thinking?" I spat out, cutting right to the point. I mean, subtlety was dead, and so was my patience. He looked up, and instead of that guilty, "I'm so sorry, man," reaction I expected, he had the audacity to roll his eyes. Roll his eyes. Like I was the one making this awkward for him. "Dude, relax," he shrugged, barely looking me in the eye. "It's not that big of a deal." Not that big of a deal, right? My best friend hooking up with my sister? Totally casual. My blood was practically boiling, but I tried to keep it together. "You're married, Mike. Married to Lisa, remember? You know, your wife?" I was seconds from making a scene, but he just looked at me, stone cold, and said something that nearly knocked me over. "Well, maybe if you weren't such a tightwad, you'd see the fun in keeping secrets," he shot back with this smug, slimy grin. And before I could even react, he had the nerve to double down. Anyway, Dan, let's not make a big deal out of it, all right? If you try to mess this up for me, I'll just tell everyone you're blackmailing me for cash. I stood there, speechless, staring at this guy who was supposed to have my back. He didn't just cross the line, he pretty much bulldozed it and kept going. I could feel the betrayal like a weight in my chest, and he didn't even flinch. This guy, my best friend, just made it clear he'd rather throw me under the bus than face his own mess. All right, so here's me standing in Mike's apartment, still stunned, still processing the fact that this guy, my so-called brother, was threatening me after he was the one who screwed up. I'm just standing there thinking, this cannot actually be happening. But nope, this wasn't some fever dream. Mike was dead serious, like he had already mapped out the entire narrative of me as the bad guy, just in case I dared to tell anyone about his little secret. I mean, you've got to respect the nerve, right? Here he was, throwing around accusations and empty threats like he had nothing to lose. So I did what any rational, mature adult would do. I laughed, loudly, probably a bit too loudly, because this was honestly the most absurd mess I'd ever been in. The guy cheats on his wife with my sister, and somehow I'm the villain? Unreal. Let me get this straight, I said, fighting back another laugh. You ruin your own marriage, mess with my sister, and now you're what? The victim? Is this some kind of new reality show? Because if it is, I didn't sign up for it. Mike crossed his arms, trying to look cool and unbothered, which, spoiler alert, just made him look more ridiculous. Think whatever you want, man, he sneered, but I'd be careful if I were you. People aren't going to take your side if they think you're just some loser out for revenge. Oh, right. I'm the loser here. Sure, Mike, keep telling yourself that. At this point, I had two options. Walk away and let this clown think he's won, or go nuclear and let the chips fall where they may. Guess which one I picked? So I leaned in, still grinning like I'd just heard the world's best joke. Fine, I said, shrugging like this was all just water off my back. You do you, Mike, but if you think I'm just going to sit back and watch you ruin my sister's life and treat me like some kind of idiot, you're in for a surprise. I could tell he didn't expect me to push back. In his mind, he was untouchable, invincible. He probably thought he had me wrapped around his little finger, ready to run off with my tail between my legs. But he didn't know who he was dealing with. Because if he thought I'd just keep quiet, he had another thing coming. As I turned to leave, I gave him one last look, a smirk on my face that probably rattled him more than he'd admit. By the way, I added, I hope you got a good story ready. You're going to need it when everyone finds out the truth. And just like that, I left him there, looking more rattled than he'd probably ever admit. I left Mike's place fuming, determined to make him pay. This guy thought he could play me, cheat on his wife with my sister, and then threaten me if I didn't keep quiet. He had no idea who he was messing with. I spent the next few days gathering evidence, and oh boy, it wasn't hard. Mike's phone was a goldmine of incriminating texts, selfies, and videos, like he'd practically left a trail, daring me to use it. With everything I needed, I kept playing it cool around him. Every time he smirked, thinking he'd scared me off, I had to bite back a laugh. He had no clue what was coming. Then came Lisa's birthday party, the perfect stage. I showed up early, acting like I was there to help, smiling, chatting with Lisa, even complimenting Mike's loyalty. The whole time, I knew exactly what was about to go down. When everyone gathered to sing Happy Birthday, I casually hit send on my phone. The messages? A highlight reel of Mike's worst moments with Sarah, sent to everyone at the party, friends, family, coworkers, even Lisa herself. The room went dead silent as people stared at their screens, faces shifting from confusion to horror. And Mike? He looked like he'd been struck by lightning, eyes wide, stammering, totally exposed. It was beautiful, all right, so here I am sitting on enough dirt to bury Mike's entire reputation 6 feet under, and believe me, I was ready to dig. It was time to show him he messed with the wrong guy. The plan? Simple. I'd expose him in the most public, brutal way possible. But you don't rush a masterpiece, right? I needed the perfect setup. So I waited. A few days went by, and Mike kept acting like he had nothing to worry about. Every time we crossed paths, he'd flash me that cocky smile, thinking he'd gotten away with it. It was almost pathetic. I mean, here's a guy with a marriage on the line, treating it like a game. But hey, if he wanted to play, I was more than ready. Then came Lisa's birthday. Now, normally this would be a straightforward, family-friendly affair, but I was about to turn it into the plot twist of the century. I showed up early, putting on my best helpful friend face. I helped with the drinks, made small talk, and even made sure to say, "Man, Mike, you're so lucky to have someone as loyal as Lisa." The irony was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Mike? He just smirked and went along with it, oblivious to the fact that his entire world was about to implode. When the guests finally gathered around to sing Happy Birthday, I knew it was go time. I casually pulled out my phone, pretended to scroll, and then with a grin, hit send. That's right. In one tap, I'd sent every last piece of evidence. Texts, selfies, videos, straight to every single person at that party. Friends, family, coworkers, Lisa, everyone. And let me tell you, the reactions, priceless. People's faces went from smiles to shock, like they'd all just witnessed a car crash in slow motion. The room went dead silent, just this heavy, awkward tension as people realized exactly what they were looking at. Then I caught sight of Lisa. She was staring at her phone, frozen. Her face had gone completely blank, and then it hit her. Her perfect husband wasn't so perfect. As for Mike, he looked like he'd just seen a ghost. Wide eyes, mouth half open, stammering, like he thought he could somehow talk his way out of it. He was scrambling, practically drowning in his own lies as people started whispering, pointing, piecing together the full disaster. And me? I just stood back, arms crossed, watching the fallout, feeling that sweet taste of justice dot so comma. Picture this. The entire room's gone dead silent. People are staring at their phones in absolute shock. And I'm just standing there, holding back a grin. The chaos was beautiful. Mike? He's in the middle of the room, looking like a deer in headlights, completely frozen. If I'd had a camera, this would have been the moment to capture. And then boom, the whispers start. You know how people pretend to whisper while making sure everyone can hear? Yeah, that. Lisa's friends are gasping. Her mom is giving Mike this look like she's 2 seconds from throwing her drink at him, and his so-called buddies are just backing away, not wanting to get hit by the shrapnel. Meanwhile, Lisa is still staring at her phone, jaw clenched. You could practically see the heartbreak and rage fighting for first place on her face. She finally looks up at Mike and just says, "So, this is what you've been doing, huh?" Her voice is cold, like ice. And everyone? They're eating this up like it's the season finale of a drama series. Mike, being the genius he is, stumbles into full panic mode. He starts with the classic, "Lisa, it's not what it looks like." Dude, really? Not what it looks like? Everyone literally has the receipts in their hands. But he's desperate, throwing out excuses like he's clinging to the last pieces of his reputation. "It was a misunderstanding," he tries, which only makes everyone snicker. So I decide to give him a little nudge. "Hey, Mike, maybe explain to Lisa why you were so misunderstood in all those texts and pictures. I mean, we all saw it. No one here is blind." I couldn't resist. I threw him that little jab, and it hit like a freight train. He turns to me, and I can see it, the rage bubbling up, because he knows exactly who hit the send button. But he's trapped. He can't lash out at me in front of everyone. So, instead, he just stands there, trying to look calm, but his face is flushed. His hands are shaking. This guy is hanging by a thread, and everyone's watching him unravel. And then Lisa drops the final bomb. She walks right up to him, holding out her phone. "Oh, and just so you know," she says, voice dripping with anger, "you're not coming home tonight. Actually, make that ever." She takes off her ring, tosses it on the table, and walks out, leaving Mike standing there, humiliated and alone. The guests start murmuring again, some people awkwardly trying to slip out of the room, while others just stay to watch Mike's life burn to ashes in real time. And me? I'm feeling pretty damn satisfied. Alright, comma. So after Lisa's epic mic drop and her storming out, the party, or what was left of it, basically imploded. People were whispering, sneaking glances at Mike like he was some kind of tragic sideshow. The guy looked like he'd aged a decade in 5 minutes, just standing there, staring at that little wedding ring she'd tossed like it was a bomb he couldn't defuse. And here's me, just casually enjoying the show from the sidelines. I'd done my part. Now it was time to kick back and let Mike's whole world go up in flames. But apparently, he wasn't going to let me off that easy. He finally snapped out of his daze, and I could see the moment he locked eyes with me. If looks could kill, I'd be 6 feet under. He stormed over, trying to keep his voice low, but he was practically vibrating with anger. "You think this is funny, Dan?" he hissed, his face going red. "You ruined my life." "Oh no, Mike," I shot back, all innocent-like. "You ruined your life. I just gave everyone a front-row seat." I couldn't help the grin spreading across my face. The guy had been so smug, so untouchable. And now he was a mess. He looked like he was 2 seconds from snapping, and honestly, I was ready for it. "Do you even understand what you've done?" he spat, his voice shaking. "You think Lisa's going to just forgive me after this?" I raised an eyebrow. Let me think. Nope, not a chance, buddy. I leaned in a little closer, just enough to add that last bit of fuel to the fire. "Maybe you should have thought of that before you decided to mess around with my sister and turn me into the villain. Funny how karma works, huh?" He clenched his jaw, looking like he wanted to say a million things, none of which would save him. Instead, he took one last look around the room, at all these shocked faces, the people giving him the side-eye, and a few brave souls who were just flat out laughing. It was like a social death sentence, and everyone knew it. But then, in a move that honestly shocked me, Mike decided to make one last desperate stand. He straightened up, put on this fake defiant smile, and started clapping. "Congratulations, Dan," he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "You win. Hope you're happy." "Believe me, Mike," I replied, not missing a beat, "I'm very happy." With that, he turned and stormed out, practically slamming the door behind him. And that was it. The party was over, people started clearing out, and within minutes, the place was empty, just like Mike's reputation. So comma after Mike's dramatic exit, I figured the chaos was done. But nope. The real fun was just beginning. Word of the birthday bomb spread fast, and by noon the next day, everyone in our circle had the full story. Screenshots were everywhere, and people were making memes with captions like, "When you're married, but your best friend's sister is just too tempting." Brutal, right? Mike's phone was blowing up with texts from people demanding answers or just calling him out. His family? Furious. Lisa's friends? Ruthless. They lit him up on social media, making sure everyone knew exactly what went down. He was trending, and not in a good way. Then came the job drama. Lisa's connections meant his boss got wind of everything, and, well, Mike didn't exactly keep his position. Fired. Gone. All because he couldn't keep his life together. Meanwhile, my phone was buzzing with people calling me a legend for the ultimate takedown or asking for the full story. I told them what happened, and people were eating it up, turning it into a story that everyone wanted to pass around. Mike tried some last-minute damage control, but it was too late. He was officially radioactive, and no one wanted to be near him, so there I was, scrolling through the latest gossip. And honestly, couldn't have been more satisfied. Alright, comma, so just when I thought Mike had hit rock bottom, he managed to dig himself even deeper. About a week after the whole birthday fiasco, I get this message from him. Out of the blue, he's begging me to fix things with Lisa. Like, really? The guy's got the nerve to ask me for help after everything? I couldn't help it. I laughed. This was the same guy who tried to flip everything on me, and now he was acting like we were still bros. So I replied, "Fix things? Buddy, you need a miracle worker, not a friend. I could practically feel the desperation through the screen as he tried to convince me he'd learned his lesson. But here's the kicker. Turns out, Lisa had moved on. And by moved on, I mean she was posting pictures with her new guy, some tall, ridiculously ripped dude who made Mike look like a middle schooler in comparison. Seeing that was the nail in Mike's coffin, and let me tell you, watching him squirm was beyond satisfying. After that, Mike went silent. No more calls, no more texts. He pretty much ghosted everyone, including his few remaining friends. And honestly, that was the perfect ending. He dug his own grave, and now he was lying in it, alone. I sat back, watching everything unfold, knowing I didn't just get even. I got ahead.